everyone, welcome back here to my channel where I play Planet Zoo. My name is Nisse and today we have our last habitat animal for the new DLC, which is the Lar Gibbon. And it's getting a few friends in here. We have the Asian small-clawed otter, which you know I love. You can see one running there on the ground. We also have both the Siamang and the orangutan, because why not? We make a climbing habitat, and yeah, this is a big one. I cut out a few things from the speedball because it would take a lot of time. But if you want to see how I built this habitat or simply just learn a little more about the Lar Gibbon, then please keep watching. Okay guys, and as I mentioned, I cut out a few things. The first thing here is that I made all of this ground in the background, and I put in a few rocks just to get started so you didn't have to see all of the rock work. I will also cut something out a little later. But still keep things in, so you hopefully will get the general idea. The hut I put down here, I also used for the other two habitats that went up this Wednesday and Thursday, being the Asian water monitor and the Red River hawk and the other animals over there. So it's completely reused, but as you saw, I just cut off one side of it so it can go into the mountain this way. And just a little housekeeping, next week we will hopefully be back to normal schedule, which means I make videos on different months: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday and Saturday we have speed builds. It's just, I know we have a few new here because of the new DLCs, and I hope you guys want to hang around a little longer. So that's what we normally have going on. I know I put out a lot of videos. I do not ask anyone to watch all of them. I know it's a lot. I just love making them, and I'm sorry about it. So yeah. And again, when we have multi-animal habitats, since I really love building them, but I do like to go more into details when we talk about animals. So I will focus on the Lar Gibbon today, but there will also be a little bit about the other animals. But if you want to learn more about them, I have other videos I made before where I have talked about them more. And the Lar Gibbon is of course the first gibbon we have in the game, and I know I say of course, but it isn't that cut and dry, I think it's called, because we have the Siamang, and the Siamang is in the same family as the Lar Gibbon and all the gibbons, which is the Hylobatidae family, which is mostly gibbons, to be honest. But when we go to genus, the real gibbons have the Symphalangus genus, and Sorry, that was the genus for the Siamang, but all of the gibbons have the Hylobates genus. So therefore, they are not actual gibbons, but they are the closest thing that comes to it, and still not being it. The Lar Gibbon is of course called Hylobates lar, and this is something we see with a lot of gibbons, where they have in English they have their name and then gibbon as second name, but in Latin they will have their Hylobates and then their name as the second name instead of the first name in English. Yeah, I hope I didn't confuse anyone with that. Anyway, as you can see, we already had a different cut, and it's because I tried to place every single tree in here and combine it with these vines. So the gibbons and the orangutan and the Siamang in here can walk for tree to tree. This took a lot of time, so therefore I cut out the first part. I'm pretty sure that you can get a good idea here about how I did it, and I used the biggest trees and placed them first, and then here, which will be the front part of the habitat, will be a little bit smaller trees. Not small trees, but a little bit smaller. I will also just mention that even though you can go not all the way around the habitat, but you can go at least 3 of the size around the habitat. I did choose still to build it with the mind of a front and a back, because the back is where we have the Fusa, and I don't want people to gather up over there to see these animals. I want them to use the big path at the waterfalls, and therefore I made the good view from over here, the angle you see now. But just that you could be lucky to see them on the other side, but there's not really anything like beautiful over there you really want to see, so you will focus on the Fusa. But let's see if we can learn a little more about the Lar Gibbon, also known as the white-handed gibbon. Though it is endangered, it's still one of the most well-known gibbons in the world, and that's because even though we don't have a lot of them in the wild, we do have a lot of them in captivity, where they actually exist, as far as I know, in zoos all around the world, where some other gibbons may have plenty of numbers in the wild, but when it comes to it in zoo, they just aren't shown off that much. The Lar Gibbon are really amazing when it comes to balance, where some animals in trees will use their tail. We see this, for instance, with different kinds of leopards and squirrel, where they actually use their big bushy tail to keep the balance walking on the tree stumps. Most primates will climb with their hands and don't need balance the same way, because they will just grab onto things. The Lar Gibbon is a little different. They can climb like most monkeys and apes out there, but they will choose when it is more fitted for them to basically just run on a branch or a vine, like you can see here in the game later on, run on top of it. And since they do not have a tail, they cannot do the same thing here, of course. But what they can do is use their arms. Like we see when humans try to balance of something, we use our hands, put them out to the side to balance our speeder. The Lar Gibbons have a little more flair than this, and therefore they do not put their arms just out. They put them up in the air, and it looks like they really have this little dance going on when they run on branches or vines or where they do it, and it looks so goddamn cute. And if you haven't seen it in the game, you could spend some time just watching that, because it looks so funny. And if you want to see some real Lar Gibbons do it, you can also see that plenty of times, both on YouTube and many other places around the internet, because it's something people start to film when it happens. The Lar Gibbons live in the almost most Southeast Asia there is. It's not all the way down to Australia, but we are getting close. We have that little island group in between there, and then a little bit of mainland Asia. This will be in Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Thailand, and China. They live, of course, in the tropical climate zones and stay within forest and rainforest, but also places like riparians, where we have these beautiful, lush, watery areas. Though I haven't seen them swim in the game at all. I'm not sure if they can swim, but they don't do it in the game at all. So they need to climb over here, which I didn't knew when I built it. But they do climb over here. They do use this, but not a whole lot. So yeah, that's just me making a little bit of mistake there. I just saw that they lived around these beautiful riparian, and I still wanted this water to go through all 4 habitats here. Lar Gibbons have something called sleeping trees, which will be trees where they feel safe, where they would normally sleep, but they do also just use it for safety. It would be something where they feel they have a good view of things, and it will be harder for predators to get to. They will spend roughly 15.5 hours a day in this tree. So again, it's not only for sleeping, but it is also used for sleeping. And this is just they will go back to their sleeping tree a little bit before sundown, and they will not come out of the sleeping trees before the sun is up next day, so they can feel more safe and don't get hunted in the dark. Which only leaves them with 5.5 hours for the rest of the day. Of these 5.5 hours, they use around 32.6% of that simply on eating. So it will also be kind of inactive hours. Then they will rest for 26.2%, which again is really inactive. Then they will travel and use a roughly 24.2% of their day. Again, this is not of the whole day, this is of the 8.5 hour. And then they will have social activities for roughly 11.3%, and vocalizing, actually singing to each other, not singing like we would do, but more like the Siamang would do. We talked a lot about that when I talked about the Siamang. For around 4% of the day. And then they have something called intergroup encounters, which is meeting with other groups that is not just your group, for 1.9% of that day, which is a really closely knit schedule, and it is impressive that it is so scheduled, so it's something that you can say all of them do. It's not just this group do it this way and the group over there do it a little differently. They have these really, really tight schedules days to do everything basically. And the reason why scientists have been able to make these really specific calculations is, of course, because we have so many of them in a captivity, so you can monitor them really easy without actually disturbing them, whereas in nature you will have to find them, track them, set up cameras everywhere they may go and such to get these specific numbers. But in captivity it's really easy to do. The thing with these numbers though are also that they will change throughout the year again. Sometimes they will be a little more active, should we say. However, it will not be a specific time of month, and this is of course when they feel like mating. Mating is something that takes up a lot of energy and will make you be a little more active, of course. And speaking of which, the Lar Gibbons are mostly monogamous, but they can also be serial monogamous, changing a partner later on if the need arrive. For some reason or another. There is, however, individual groups around the world where they are showing more polyamorous mating systems, especially the females that can have multiple partners, or even have multiple partners, but it's not like all of them, but she will just have mates, but 2 of them or 3 of them if needed. So she will, but they will not mate with others. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain this. Which is something, just to pull it into our world, it is something that we also have seen more of with humans still, especially the last few years. And I think at this point there's over 20, maybe 40 different family constellations that are officially recognized in Denmark legally. And it is a little funny this where the female will have multiple partners and kind of own those partners. Again, they will not mate with anyone else, where most of the in nature we will see where the male will mate with multiple because he's only need to deliver one push. I hope you understand what I mean from that, where she will have to use the time of carrying the baby, taking care of the baby and all these things. So therefore it would make sense for the male to be able to mate with multiple, but for some weird reason, again I say weird reason for animal biology reasons, I do not care in humans what they do about these things. I do not care. But for animals, biology-wise, it doesn't make sense. However, after these matings, the female will be pregnant for 7 to 8 months, and she will carry a single little baby gibbon. And the little baby gibbon is like most primate, will have this teenage phase where they are extremely active. As babies, they will basically just sit on their mom's back or whine to someone wants to carry them, like real babies or human babies. But when they get a little more teenage-ish, run around, doing all the things, frustrating the older ones, you will also see a spike in the activity, of course, in the group, because not only the baby or the young will use more energy, but the older ones will also use more energy just keeping up with these youngs. Another funny thing about these family constellations is that the mom will, of course, as mentioned, take care of the baby for the baby part of the time. However, the dad or dads will take care of the older babies. Again, these are family groups, so you will have one mating pair or throuple, or how many males is in there, but only like one mating female. And the rest of them will be offspring. So someone needs to take care of the older kids while mom sits with the little ones. The baby will be completely weaned after a year and a half. I already mentioned that the Lar Gibbon is endangered, and that is partially because they are hunted in some of the countries they live in, especially Thailand. This is primarily for the meat, but the young are also captured to be sold later on in the pet trade, which if you need to catch them, it's not the worst thing to do with them, but still, please don't. Again, we have plenty in captivity already. We do not have that many in the wild. However, their main issue is that they are losing their homes, and these forests in Asia are so old, really old, which means that even though you chop down the trees, if you decided to plant new ones, it would take generations for the Lar Gibbons before they would have a home, which means it doesn't only damage the gibbons that live there now, but it also do hurt the future generations of them. And nowhere to live, then you can't survive, basically. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the cinematics here. I'm really proud of them, to be honest, and I will come back afterwards. Okay, guys, that's all I got for you today. As always, guys, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you know the next time I upload a video. I really hope to see you again, either in the comments below or in the next video. Bye, guys!